Welcome back to the 24th floor. We've got a big one in Oxford this weekend. The Rebels sitting at 9-1, ranked 7th in the country, Ruben, and just one win away from really locking themselves into that college football playoff.
Yeah, it's also senior day in Oxford, which is always a big emotional day as well. This one might be more than just another SEC matchup, though. They've got the Florida Gators coming to town. Florida has not been Florida. But they can always beat you and create that spoiler mentality, so you got to be careful.
It's been a weird season, and I know we bring up weird with this guy because joining us to break it all down is our friend. He is the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, which you can catch right here on 24 Plus, YouTube, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Welcome again to the program, Mr. Stephen Willis. I have definitely missed you, so I got to give you the clap.
All right.
All right.
Why you always make that face?
I almost said, all right. Stephen, let's get rolling with, obviously, before the game this past weekend, my line was, the game's going to start at noon and it's going to be over by 12:30, right? That's what kind of game the Citadel game was. But was there anything you could take away from the game other than maybe lack of injuries or something?
It wasn't sloppy. That's the only thing that you can take away, which is a sign of a focused, dialed-in football team, because this had all the makings of being a sloppy football game. Trinidad Chambliss, 29 of 33, 333 yards and 3 touchdowns. Threes are wild for Trinidad over the weekend, but that's pretty much all you could take away. It was such an overmatched game that Ole Miss was able to pull off, and they just did what they were supposed to do. They outgained them over 600 yards to about 100 yards. They handled an FCS opponent in November the way that you hoped they would, and now it gets real.
Now I know. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going.
It's all you.
Oh well, I was gonna say, you talk about handling business. The defense. I know it was the Citadel. But you got to say the defense allowed just 106 total yards. That's the best showing since 2014. So I do think that that's something that you can take away from that game. And coming off that performance, Stephen, do you think that that gives them momentum going into the Florida game?
Yeah, if you look at it in that 100 yards, 41 of it came on a trick play that they fooled the defense on, like a hidden ball trick type deal. Other than that, it was 50 yards for the entire game. I think that Ole Miss defensively after the Georgia game started playing better. They really played well against Oklahoma. They did a good job against South Carolina. The Citadel was exactly as expected. I think that is because the front seven has grown up. You have the inclusion of Andrew Jones at linebacker, who makes TJ Daugherty a better player. Ole Miss is getting a little bit more aggressive on the defensive line with Prince Will Amon-Mielen or Suntarine Perkins on the outside. And those 2 young defensive tackles are really starting to come around. And this front seven's just getting better and better and better. And let's be real, the next 2 games, the single most important part of this game and the game against Mississippi State is going to be the physical play of the defensive line. If the defensive line can assert their will, they're going to be all right against the Florida Gators and the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Playoffs, the whole 9 yard, the biggest game in the history of the state of Mississippi, potentially. All of that is at Ole Miss's fingertips.
Let's talk a little bit about Florida. I did read that DJ Lagway is going to be the starter again after getting benched a little bit. But how dangerous can a team like Florida actually be? Because they almost don't really have an identity right now. You don't know what to expect sometimes.
Yeah, one thing that is interesting, both of the Wilson receivers are out. Dallas Wilson is going to be out for the season, and Trey Wilson, who is a really good player that was the other wide receiver that made a couple of plays against the Georgia Bulldogs, they're out, which means that you deal with Mizell, you deal with some weapons on the outside, but it's not really the same thing. You have a quarterback that's kind of dealing with a confidence issue at the moment. The player that I think you need to watch from the Kentucky offense is Jaden Baugh. I think he's potentially one of the better running backs in the entire Southeastern Conference. So Florida is going to split him out wide. They're going to move him around. They're going to hand him off. They are going to be basically everything that Florida hopes for will be if Jaden Baugh has a big day. The key for Ole Miss is going to be that front seven stopping Jaden Baugh.
Now, we did talk about the stakes with this. Ole Miss wins 10-1. Do you think this essentially locks them into the college football playoffs regardless of what happens in the Egg Bowl? Or do you think they still have to kind of go 2-0 here?
Well, I would like to see how the other results happen. For instance, it could get weird if Texas and Oklahoma wins their games this weekend, because Alabama and Georgia are probably not going to fall out of the playoff. So all of a sudden that pool gets a little bit deeper, if that makes sense. But if Alabama and Georgia wins the game, that essentially knocks out Oklahoma, knocks out Texas. There's going to be carnage elsewhere. In that case, yeah, Ole Miss is likely into the playoffs. But there is a possible outcome to where Ole Miss could go 10-2 and be on the outside looking in. It doesn't seem likely, but there is a possible outcome. I do think that it's more important to beat Florida than to beat Mississippi State, honestly, either way it goes. But ideally, Ole Miss is 11-1 hosting a playoff game and all of that stuff. But it is possible that you miss the playoffs at 10-2. It is not likely, I don't think.
Yeah, but you start playing that 10-2 Russian roulette, and that can get real suspect because you just don't know how it's going to play out. And I can tell you, over the years of covering sports, there would be plenty of times when those final pairings would come out and somebody had a record that they felt like determined that they should have been in, and they were out. And that was always that extra loss that they, you look back and say, man, that one loss is what got you.
Remember the Oklahoma State thing?
Yes, so perfect. So perfect analogy. So I do think, to your point, Stephen, they can probably get in with one win, but you said a long time ago when we first started the season that this was going to be the telltale marker this back end of the season, and that they probably needed to go, two out of three to secure what they actually wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this Ole Miss football team, they have everything in front of them. I mean, every award, every championship, everything is at the team's fingertips right now. And if you look at it for real, both the Florida game and the Mississippi State game is guaranteed to be nationally relevant all of the season. Every game this football season will be nationally relevant. I think Ole Miss has a better football team than Florida. I think Ole Miss has a better football team than Mississippi State. But we saw Lane Kiffin lay an egg last year against Kentucky. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? Not really. But if Ole Miss takes care of business, they'll be hosting a game at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, and everybody will be excited about Georgia Tech or whoever coming into the stadium. So it should be pretty cool.
I will say, me being an Atlantan, if they play Georgia Tech, that's going to be hard for my soul.
It's not going to be hard to watch that whooping.
Hey, man. hey, watch it. Watch it. Not too much. Not too much on my Yellow Jackets. All right, so obviously we have to talk about something that we've been talking about, it seems, week after week, and that's the Lane Kiffin factor. And I think he has stay in your lane energy, I like to call it. Obviously, it's going to be senior day, got the home crowd, the national spotlight. Now, I know we look at this game as, okay, this is the last regular season home game, but we expect Ole Miss to play another home game if they make it, in the playoffs. But still, with everything surrounding this game, rumors swirling about the NFL, other programs for Lane, how do you think the team is handling that noise? Do you think Kiffin uses it to motivate them?
I don't think Kiffin uses it to motivate them. I don't think Kiffin acknowledges it at all. He had a meeting before the Oklahoma game where he said, hey, all of this coaching noise, that's actually a compliment to you because they want me, because they want what you're doing. And that appears to be the mindset that is kind of taken over. This football team appears to be a pretty tight-knit unit, and they're pretty locked in at the moment. We had Daquan Wright on my podcast, South Carolina week, and he mentioned is like, hey, whether he goes, whether he doesn't, we're going to be completely locked in because there are no days off for the next 30 days. And if one of the leaders of the team, that tells you what he's thinking about and how it's going. I like where this Ole Miss football team is. Now, if Ole Miss lost the game against Florida, how does that Mississippi State game look? If Ole Miss keeps winning, of course, it's going to look good. But whenever Mississippi State comes around, you still want to be up for that game as well. There's still 2 more regular season games for the Rebels. I think they have a good shot to go 11-1 and have the best regular season or the most wins in a regular season in Ole Miss history.
Ooh. Yeah, I agree. I actually really, really agree with that. that statement. I do think they end up going 11-1 because to your point, I think they're very, very, very focused at this point in time. What would you say when we talk about Florida? Because that is the next game on the slate, and every coach tells you we just got to win this week, right? What would you say when you're talking about Florida is one of the things that Ole Miss can't afford to do against Florida? You know, there's always that one thing, and you're like, you can't give up the big player, you can't get beat at the line of scrimmage, or you can't, you know, what's that thing that Ole Miss needs to be on top of against Florida?
Do not go for a fourth down at any point on the field. Kick your field goals. This is a game where a field goal is worth a touchdown. And if you do that, you have the better team. Don't give them reason to have hope. Whenever you play a team with an interim coach, you want to take their will to fight as early as humanly possible. And with Florida, if you can jump on them, maybe they let go of the rope and you have a nice little break going into the Mississippi State game. I think that needs to be the goal. Now, last week I do think was an outlier for the Florida Gators. You're going to get a better effort in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium than you got in Lexington, Kentucky. But this Ole Miss team, if they handle business, do what they're supposed to do what they're, 15.5-point favorites to do at this point, more than 2 touchdowns, Ole Miss is going into the Egg Bowl riding pretty dang high.
So we're going to put you on the spotlight, Steven. I'm going to save my prediction for my 901 bet segment. But for you, it seems you got Ole Miss winning this. But what is your score prediction? Do you think Florida hangs around, or is this one just like Citadel? Is it over by halftime?
No, it's going to be something they hang around a little bit. I think it's going to be 27-14. The reason I don't think it's a cover is that Ron Roberts, the defensive coordinator for Florida, has actually had success at all 3 stops as the defensive coordinator at Baylor, at Auburn, and now at Florida. I have doubts on Lane Kiffin's ability to cook. Now, if Florida just lets go of the rope, they could be a blowout and look like the Arkansas game a year ago. But I don't necessarily think that's going to happen because Ron Roberts actually has Delta State ties in Cleveland, Mississippi, so this game probably means a little bit to him.
All right. Well, we're going to let you go, Big Steven. You've been more than helpful as we get ready for a huge game coming up. That Florida game is going to be big, and then it just don't get any easier when you talk about the Egg Bowl. So we appreciate your time. Richard Denson, tell us again how we can all catch up with Steven.
Obviously, you can always catch Steven right here on the ABC 24+ app. You can catch the Locked On podcast. In fact, Steven, tell us what you've been working on, because we were chatting before you came on. You had a little late night thing with that Ole Miss Memphis basketball game.
Yes, we do reaction shows after every single basketball game, and honestly, we were pretty excited last night over the output of Ilias Kamerdine, who looks like he is potentially SEC Player of the Year type good player. Ooh. And might be the best player that Ole Miss has ever suited up. He is off to a roaring start, had 26 points, I believe, against the Tigers, and with Keza Jiffa, those guys, there's kind of the French connection in the Ole Miss backcourt, and that's worth paying attention to.
Oh, I have so much I could get on that, but we're going to wait. We're going to wait till we get to the Memphis basketball point. But thank you, Steven.
Let me give Steven his props real quick. Nobody in America pronounces foreign names better than you, Steven. You know what I'm saying? You could be the man at a hockey game, and you would have it locked down. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, it did take me about a month to learn Amami Ellen.
Oh, so, I got every time. You are the man. We appreciate you, Steven.
Appreciate it, guys.